Number one ambassadors. Today we're going to be talking about fathers need communities and they need confidants. All right. Everyone does, but again, our show is focused on beautiful fathers and two sons having a conversation around this beautiful thing called life. But when we have an opportunity for a solo dolo, and either myself or Gene or JB3 or Elias J does something solo, we want to be able to speak from that unique perspective. And so today, as a father who has multiple communities and some real good, solid friendships and opportunities to laugh and banter and talk smack and tell lies and exaggerate, all that's important, but also a chance to talk with confidants about things that might be heavy on my spirit, to be both heard, but also to listen when my fellow fathers have issues and concerns that they want to address. It's important. It's important for our mental well-being. It's important for our sense of self and our state of mind. But it's also important so that we can be the best fathers that we can be. And a part of being the best fathers we can be is to have sounding boards, intergenerational sounding boards, so that we can process things outwardly, get feedback, get perspective, and and kind of be in the moment with our children. That is definitely critically important. So hello, J4 family, come on in. Very good to see everybody. Dr. Went, hope you're doing well. Hope your children are well. Hope you're doing very well. Again, today's conversation is about fathers need communities and confidants, all right? Communities and confidants. So what are some of the communities that fathers naturally have? A lot of times men will gather around sport. My brother in particular, he's a year older than I am, but he finds a lot of personal fulfillment in sport activities, particularly softball. He's a little older now, so swinging the bat and kind of staying in a certain position helps him out. But at one point he was in volleyball clubs and basketball clubs, and just a way of keeping his body movement, but also the collegiality and the conversation that occurs in those kinds of settings. Often in my space, fraternities and sororities or the Divine Nine. Shout out to Phi Beta Sigma. Shout out to Kappa Alpha Psi. Shout out to Alpha Phi Alpha, the fraternity that I'm a member of. Shout out to Omega Psi Phi, Iotas. Shout out to the Zeta, to the Zetas, to the AKAs, to the Deltas, and to the Sigma Gamma Rhos. They provide lifelong communities, both informally, fun kinds of activities, but also very business structure. But then there's also personal interest communities that fathers can connect to, things that are aligned with their habits, their hobbies, things that bring them joy and satisfaction. And for example, some people in my social media sphere are part of shooters clubs. I don't quite know why, but they enjoy the nuances around gun culture and shooting and self-defense, those kinds of things. But, that's often a community for folks as well. And then, within veterans groups often have the legions or the VFA where they gather and they come together and they tell war stories and chop it up on how life is going on. And that's critically important, that men can often live isolated lives. We go to work, there's somewhat of a community there. We come home and our life circles around home readiness, home care. We also are engaged in our children's activities, kind of what they do. And that gives us profound meaning and joy. It absolutely does. But a lot of times when that is over, when the game is over and the dishes are done and prep for the next day is done, men just kind of retreat in some instances. They retreat to perhaps their small square footage of the home, the man cave or their room, or they take solace in their chair, those kind of things. And oftentimes we get into these routines and these cycles where we don't have strong social outlets. And so as a way of just naming that and countering that, men, we definitely need communities and we need to be intentional about that. A lot of times we're sort of lone soldiers, or we position ourselves as that, or given family nuance, sometimes we're put in those positions where we're all constantly solving problems or being approached for economic resources or guidance or to assist with something. But sometimes we just need to kind of disconnect and go connect with some of our own peer groups. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about today. And one of the reasons why it's important that we connect with our peer groups, because oftentimes when we are in communities of men, depending on the nuance of it, especially if we don't know everyone with significant depth, the conversations are often surface. You know, how's the family? Oh, family's doing great. Family's doing well. You know, so is getting married, right? But there's no complexity to it. There's no variance in the conversation. It typically tends to lean optimistic, and it tends to sort of focus on the positivity or the neutral in our life, right? No one's going to say, "Oh, my son's a crackhead." You know, you're not going to share that kind of disclosure. Or, you know, my daughter got a DUI, right? You're not going to share life's dirt, you know. So you tend to keep it at a level 1 level of disclosure, and that's consistent with the social contract of communication, to where you'll just kind of, you know, share basic low levels of disclosure. But, you know, that's not consistent with the full range of humanity, because in all of us, men and women and young people, we have contradiction, we have joys, we have laughter, we have anxieties, we have moments of concern and deep regret even. You know, we're complex, and so everything that is life is also within us in this isolated human form. And if we're not intentional about creating space that allows us to reveal this, or to share, or to explore these conversations, then we're really missing out. In doing so, we discover that not only do we have this life luggage, but also other people also have the same similar luggage, and perhaps they have tactics that have helped them unload some of that luggage that we need to hear. Or perhaps they're in need, they're a younger father, they're dealing with a dynamic with one of their children, and they need some wisdom from some of the older fathers in the room, either to just affirm or confirm what they're doing, or to give them some tactical, practical kinds of skills to help them manage in that particular moment. If we're just sitting in our man cave and on our chair, we're missing out on the opportunity to be heard and to be relevant to the lives of others. So I'm recommending a strategy. I want to share with you all a strategy that I call Cyphers. Is a way that if you don't have an organization to go to that gives you any kind of depth in reflection and dialogue beyond surface level 1, that perhaps you become intentional, that you go through your social media profile, or if you're old school and you got a Rolodex or whatever it is, go through your contacts on your friend list and reach out to about 8 of your people, right? Maybe it's a high school friend, a college friend, a military friend, someone that you had a genuine kind of connection to, but perhaps time has passed and you all have lost connection, right? Those are all nuances that we all contend with. But reach out to about 8 men, 8 fathers, right? Reach out to them and invite them to something called a cipher. A cipher in the rap game is where people gather in a circle and they exchange wit and freestyle and battles, right? A cipher might, in the musical circle, be the equivalent of a jam session. It's basically where people come together, and lo and behold, the evening unfolds and the vibe gets groovy and the rhythm is right and the sip is good, the food is good, the people are good, and it's just a nice feeling, and your adrenaline is kind of moving and grooving, and it's a time of just sort of high friendship, high connection, and a sense of, you know, sort of even a zone, a zen kind of to it, right? And invite your friends, man. Go to a restaurant, reserve the back room, or in this virtual space, put them in these boxes, right? And put them through a cipher that will allow you all to have fun, silly conversations. You'll reminisce, you know, before it begins, and you'll kind of remember old times. But to formally begin a process where men can pose questions and then the collective group can answer them. The cipher is basically this. You ask each individual to write down an anonymous question on a little piece of paper. You can either do one of 2 ways. You can set the stage to say, for example, when there was racial unrest around the George Floyd incident, we did a cipher and we wrote down the questions related to social justice kinds of themes. There's been times where we had young people in college and they were first year, and we wanted to narrow the conversation around that. So you can thematically set the evening, or you can just leave it wide open, meaning no political correctness, nothing is off limits. Ask anything you want to ask. Don't care how you write it. It's more important that you write it. And just write down your anonymous question. And if you set the stage right and kind of give permission for people to be themselves, they typically will go to a question that has been on their spirit, a question that's been on their heart, a question that's been on their shoulders, and they really just want to kind of let it out. The beauty of the anonymity of the exercise or of the cipher is that people don't feel as they're going to be judged. They don't feel as if they're going to be looked upon in some crazy kind of way. And in this space, they give themselves permission to kind of just share, right? And they'll write the question down. And admittedly, you'll have some more neutral kinds of questions, I'll say. You'll have some personal disclosing kinds of questions where people will talk about health kinds of issues, things they're struggling with, and they frame it in a question kind of format. They might ask questions of a political nature or racial nature. Oftentimes for fathers, they'll ask questions of a marital nature, right? And you just take this little piece of paper and you fold it up and you put it in a receptacle. It could be a hat, could be a basket, whatever the case may be. And then everyone has their anonymous question in this receptacle. And then you say, okay, men, there's no time limit on this. There's no expectation on this. You don't even have to participate, but this is the protocol, okay? I'm gonna ask for a volunteer. A volunteer goes up, takes the piece of paper out the hat. You open it up, you get the first read, okay? You read it out loud, and then you begin to muse on whatever the question is. You answer it from your perspective. Once you're done, we then see who wants to kind of go next. As the host, you might want to kind of just organize it a little bit and just see where the conversation goes. But as you get in this rhythm, people will be chiming in. They won't be talking over each other. They'll frame disagreements as questions, and it'll just kind of have this ebb and flow to it, where you have men who have some connection to each other, just vibing on some varying levels of questions. And you just let it go naturally, right? Maybe everyone responds to the question, maybe they don't, right? But you'll feel a natural closure. You'll feel a natural point in the conversation where it's kind of come to an end. We sort of exhausted that particular topic. And then you go to the next question, right? You just go to the next question. You get another random person to come in. They open it up, they read it, and then they give the information out loud, and then it continues on from there. The only thing that you will need is a chill word, right? You're going to ask for a chill word. And a chill word is something that the group will come up with. It could be something silly. It could be something connected to y'all. But it's a word that if anyone says it, the group stops and they just address why that person used the chill word. It could be if a conversation is getting too tangential, it's running on, it's getting too long, or maybe they're picking up on some tension and some of the members in the group. Anyone can just say the chill word. We stop. We acknowledge why that was said. We address it, resolve it, and then we move on. All right. So once you've done either all or a portion of the questions, and oftentimes because of the nature of the depth of the conversation, you won't get to all the questions, right? Somebody got to go home. Somebody, kitchen pass only lasted so long and they got to get back. So the last exercise is to read out loud the remaining questions, just to read them out loud, let it set on the spirit. Don't address it, or maybe you could just address it as a collective, however you want to do that. But I have found beautiful fathers, beautiful men, when you come together, you're typically going to talk about sports. You're going to talk about women. You're going to have surface level disclosures of highlights in your life, but it does not tend to go further than that. Men, we need our conversations to go further than that. We need to share, and the anonymity allows it to be in a safe kind of way where no one puts it on any individual person, but everybody has a chance to chop it up and talk about it. We need a place to share outwardly and indirectly that we're not perfect. We need a place to share outwardly and indirectly that we have shortcomings. We need a place to share outwardly, directly, and or indirectly things that we're proud of, things that we're concerned about, things that have been heavy on our mind, things that are on our spirit. And while simultaneously laughing, having fun, talking smack, telling lies, we're that complex. We are that complex, but somehow in the structure of social discourse, we tend to keep it neutral. We tend to kind of keep it in the middle of the lane, but that's not who we are. That's not what human beings are. And so fathers, we need to get out of our man cave and our little part of the house and our chair and get into communities of men through facilitated structured dialogue that allows us to get beyond how was the game, how's your favorite team, how's your babies doing, how's the wife. No, we need to get into some questions that are more in-depth and aligned with real life. And then the last thing I'll say, and thank you guys for kind of being here and letting me muse on a Sunday, talking about fathers need communities and confidants. We need confidants, y'all. We need someone who doesn't want anything from us, doesn't have any agenda for us, have proven with their life lived in relationship to us that they will give us nothing but perspective, nothing but the truth. For me, that's my father, right? Of course, he's been here from day one. But anytime I'm having that, man, I got to chop this out, and I got to talk this out, I immediately go to my old man, right? I call him up, and he knows too, because I trigger him. I say, hey, Pops, I need to talk to you. Well, obviously, I'm calling him, right? But I never start conversations like that. I say, hey, Pop, I need to talk to you. And he knows, okay, let me sit down. Let me kind of get in my right mind because my son's about to come at me with something, right? That's my confidant. But I also have other confidants, friends who have demonstrated to me a certain kind of care and a certain kind of compassion for my life lived. And I go to those individuals too. Some are a little younger than I am. Some are in my age set. And, you know, I don't have a whole lot of those. I don't recommend a lot of confidants. You know, certainly your colleague at work is not your confidant. These are people who have proven themselves. People who have demonstrated with their actions, with their activities, with their words that they got your back essentially, and they're going to be a willing ear. And then you also need to be a good confidant. And if it's to those people in reciprocity, beautiful. But sometimes your confidant, you're not their confidant, right? That is not an expectation nor a requirement. But there are people in your life who want to pick your ear. They want to talk to you, right? Sometimes those can be young people, and hopefully they're your sons and your daughters. And you got to find a way to understand when they're coming at you for that advice, when are they coming at you for that perspective. And then you need to trust your gut to see, do they need a self-check? Do they just need a vent? Do they need an answer? Do they need immediate address? Whatever the case may be, and just trust your gut on that. But all of us, fathers, we need confidence, right? Because what is more important? What is more important than raising a child, right? What is more important than doing that with a partner? What is more important than being the manager, the guider, the protector of a life or multiple life, right? And to do that, that's not a solo dolo act. That's not a put on the armor, get the flag, and charge the hill. No, that needs to be a village. That needs to be a collective approach. You know, you certainly at the helm of that, but having done that after having a counsel and advice and perspective to bounce things off of. So in short, I see some new folks here coming in. Good to see you. I don't know who you are. I can't see your names. Would love to see y'all throw yourselves in the chat, get some feedback here. Dr. Wynn, I don't know if you're still on. Give me your thoughts here. But as I was sort of stating, just sort of in recap, men, we need communities. We need fun, silly communities, you know, where we can talk smack and laugh and tell lies. You know, we need that. You know, we need opportunities to just share level one, surface level disclosures, but we need beyond that. We need opportunities in constructive kinds of ways to come together. And I'm recommending a cipher that we get about 8 of our peoples, right? 8 fathers, 8 friends, whatever the case may be. You can do it in person or you can do it virtually online. Submit anonymous questions and then go for it, man. Speak your truth, speak your contradictions, and speak what's current in your spirit. And Dr. Wynn says, we women need our men to take this to heart. Thank you so much, Dr. Wynn. Beautiful people coming in. Thank you so much for the chats. We are in a mission to grow, right? A part of a J4 Solo Dolo conversations is where I can get on this thing a little bit more because my schedule permits. As I've mentioned before, I'm kind of an empty nest land. My last Mohican, my 17-year-old's a senior, and she has a car, so she stays gone. And so I'm trying to find a way to be a bit more constructive with my time rather than just sitting in my chair and in my square footage of the house, but to get my butt out of and get to my communities and to my confidants, and to also perhaps have some relevancy here to you all in this YouTube land. But J4 Conversation wants to kind of share 2 fathers and 2 sons perspective. So anything you can do to help us grow is greatly appreciated. Part of that is subscribing to the YouTube channel, encouraging your friends who you think might benefit from that to subscribe, and then they can be made aware when we're going to share. To also talk to, if you know some single moms and some single dads that could use some old man advice and some young people's perspective on it, then I think it would be a good instrument to share. Dr. Wynn says, I shared on Facebook. Let's broaden the audience. Thanks, AJ, and thanks, J4. Absolutely. And man, the last thing, we need confidants, y'all. We're not armor. We're not superheroes. We're not made of concrete, man. At times we got to show that. I understand that. At times we got to just kind of toe that line, right? But the same human emotion that everyone has, so do you. So do you. To include arrogance, inflated confidence, joy, sad, laughter, fear, love, joy, all of it. All of it. And it's important that some part of our life allows that to come out. Beautiful family, on behalf of J4 Conversations, good to see you. We'll be coming at you again. Our goal is for the 2 fathers and 2 sons to go live on Mondays around 6:30 p.m. Arizona time. But in the interim, J4 Solo Dolo will be coming at you. Beautiful family, thank you so much. Help us grow. J4 showing love, y'all. Take care. Boom.